A disturbing trend has emerged over the past few years. Since 2014, the rate of hate crimes against minority communities has increased, and it's increased sharply. Some legislation has been put out to address the issue, but the numbers continue to rise. So why is this happening? And more importantly, what's being done about it?
You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent.
Welcome to DC Direct. I'm Lionel Donovan. In this show, we talk about the big issues here in the U.S., but we want you to weigh in. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at TRT World, and reach out to us with the hashtag DC Direct and be a part of the conversation. In this show, we'll be talking about the U.S.'s rising hate crime numbers. Over the past couple of years, DC has seen a sharp increase in the number of its reported hate crimes. Back in 2015, only 66 hate crimes were reported, but by November of this year, that number had nearly tripled. But what exactly defines a hate crime? A hate crime, or bias-related crime, is defined by the FBI as a crime that targets the victim's race or ethnicity, gender, gender identity, religion, disability, or sexual orientation. The most common incidents reported last year were motivated by race or ethnicity, followed by religion, and then sexual orientation. The U.S. rolled out its first piece of legislation to deal with hate crimes back in 1968 with the Civil Rights Act. This act served as a foundation for other pieces of legislation to be built on, with the newest edition coming out in 2009 with the Hate Crimes Prevention Act, which expanded protections to apply to crimes based on a victim's actual or perceived gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability. But how effective have these pieces of legislation been when it comes to addressing hate crimes? We reached out to the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington to discuss how federal legislation allows local authorities to work with federal officers to deal with hate crimes in the Capitol.
What it's allowed us to do and what it has facilitated is a stronger partnership between us and our federal partners, particularly the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The federal statute does not go anywhere near as far as our local DC statute as far as who it protects and under which circumstances. But obviously, the more law enforcement that we can get involved and interested in this, the better it is for our communities.
Like you were saying about how DC is a microcosm of the country, have you noticed, have you seen this trend in the numbers in other parts of the country as well?
We are pretty much consistent with other parts of the country. Everyone is seeing an increase that we've talked to around the country. The difference is in which areas you're seeing those increases. For us, we have seen the increases in ethnicity, national origin, religion, and race, where other areas may be seeing increases in sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression.
But at the end of the day, Lieutenant Parson feels that the solution to hate crime is bigger than what the police can do.
We are but one part of a response to bias-related crimes and the prevention of bias-related crimes and incidents. It is that motive of not respecting someone because they are fill in the blank, that they believe in something different than you, that bias-related crimes are born. And so that's not a police matter. That's a matter for the larger society to deal with.
The violence seen in Charlottesville, Virginia sent shockwaves throughout the country, and the small town hasn't been the same since. James Fields, who killed one person and injured nearly a dozen others after driving his car into a group of people protesting a white supremacist rally, is currently waiting to hear his official sentence. But that's not enough for some residents in the city. Anna Malinowski turned to activism after the violence and uses their voice to speak out on a trend that they believe isn't as new as some may think.
I think that certain people have become emboldened by whether it's somebody like Trump or just the rise of fascism in America in general. Certain people have become emboldened to start acting out. However, I really do not believe in a lot of rhetoric around hate crimes that says that this is a new thing. This has been happening for centuries. And specifically, people of color have been trying to call attention to the fact that they have had a disproportionate amount of violence towards them. And white folks, people with white privilege have not been paying attention to that.
Malinowski was one of the people that was injured when Field struck. And although the experience was traumatic, they know that the anger wasn't directly aimed at them.
I am queer and non-binary and I have disabilities. Although I did experience the psychological impacts, although obviously Nazis are oppositionally opposed to me as a person, I feel a little bit strange because I wasn't their ultimate target.
So at the end of it all, what would you like people outside of Charlottesville to take away from what took place here last August?
Charlottesville is not just a hashtag. It is a place with people who have lived a very traumatic experience, whether or not that was through the lived experience of August 12th and August 11th, or through the lived experiences of trauma, of racial trauma that has been going on here for hundreds of years. And I hope that the nation can learn from this incident and can bring back the fervor that we have for fighting white supremacy into their own towns, into their own states, into other parts of the country.
Authorities on the federal and local level are working to address these kinds of crimes. But despite their efforts, the number of hate crimes continues to rise. What's also disturbing is that the number of hate groups with extremist ideologies is rising as well. So as extremism makes its way into the mainstream and becomes more normalized, many people in minority communities are facing the scary possibility that hate crimes could be normalized as well. Well, that's all the time we have today in DC Direct, but please be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at TRT World. And reach out to us with the hashtag DC Direct and let us know what you think about the U.S.'s rising hate crime numbers. Until next time, I'm Lionel Donovan.